Hey everybody, it's Andrew Martin coming to you with a new video on Friday, June 5th. It is gorgeous, sunny, and bright here today in Seattle. It's going to be a scorcher, which by Seattle standards, I mean 75 degrees can be a scorcher in Seattle. But yeah, anyway, that's why I have this strange pattern on my face from the sun coming through my blinds. I sit here at my desk when I do these videos, and you can't see it, but I've got all my plants around me and the window right here. And it's a lovely place to sit and record these videos and build my empire and plot my world domination. But I wanted to talk today about the topic of fear. Ah, dun, dun, dun. Fear is an asshole. Fear is a liar. Fear can very easily be manufactured. Fear is a choice. Fear is no more real than any other emotion. And fear is, once you figure it out, fear is one of the easiest ones to dissolve and to understand and to neutralize. And it took me, I'm what, 43? I'll be 44 in September. It took me about 43 years to really finally come to this realization and to stop running from fear and to stop letting fear drive the bus. And fear is everywhere. Fear is prevalent. And, I'm a huge believer in, what we focus on grows, and what we pay attention to is what we invite. And our energetic frequency and our vibration that's happening internally literally is what dictates our experience and our life. But the question is always, is it conscious or unconscious? Are our beliefs and expectations and ideas of how the world is going to treat us and how the world is going to be, are they conscious or unconscious beliefs and expectations? And so regarding the topic of fear, are our fears conscious or unconscious? Because the way that I view it is that, our soul, our light, our truth, our spirit, the internal part of who we are, the eternal infinite part of who we are, the part of us that never dies and always transforms. This body someday is gonna, break down and fall apart as all physical things do. But the internal part of me will live forever. So the internal part of who we are is the light, right? And literally it is, if you think of them like a movie projector, when you go to the movies, the soul, the spirit, the true self is the light. The film that is running in front of the light is our expectations and our beliefs. It's our mind. It is what we've been trained to believe, what we've chosen to believe, what we've decided to believe, what we've been told and taught and sometimes forced to believe. That is the movie. That is the film that is running in front of the light. And then the projection, the movie that we are watching, is the experience of our life. So our soul illuminates everything in our experience. And the movie that we run in front of that light is what we expect our life to be, or what we think our life will be or should be. And then the movie that we experience, the life that we live, is the projection of those expectations, because the soul and the spirit always only lovingly projects itself through us all of the time, unconditionally. And that's really what unconditional means. It will consistently and will always project itself through our expectations and our ideas, regardless. It will never leave us. It can't. It's what we are. And so by that example, we can begin to see how we literally do create our own world and literally do create our own life. So the question then becomes, is what we are projecting, is it conscious or unconscious? Are we asleep in the movie theater, or are we engaged fully in the movie theater, watching the movie and participating in the movie? Or are we just kind of like, half asleep? So On the topic of fear, yesterday I had a session with a woman, very sweet woman, who really, on behalf of her daughter, was coming to me. Her daughter is very intuitive, psychic, gifted. You know, she's very powerful medium. And her whole life, her daughter has experienced, you know, like spirits coming to her and people who had died or who, you know, had passed over or who, you know, for whatever, in whatever way that they had, you know, left the physical, they were coming to her. And she was terrified. And of course, who wouldn't be? I mean, as a little kid, when you start seeing, you know, ghosts, spirits showing up, it would be terrifying for a lot of us. And so her daughter spent a lot of her time and a lot of her life avoiding it and really trying like hell to build up walls against it and to externally try to block it out. But it became very clear to me in this reading that, and this is something that I've always known, but it's interesting how sometimes you have a moment of it kind of clicks and you get a deeper understanding or a clearer version of it or a new clarity around it. Her daughter's fear is what was magnetizing these negative experiences to her. Because fear is an invitation for what we don't want to show up. Fear is a permission slip for our fears to manifest. And I know that feels kind of backwards, and I can even feel sort of the resistance before I've even recorded this video. I can feel the sort of the resistance of what? Wait, what the hell does that mean? What are you talking about? So bear with me. It's like the metaphor, you know, in every vampire story, in every vampire legend and myth and movie and, you know, all of that. The vampire cannot enter the house, the domain, the reality of the victim unless it is invited. And I mean, and this came through me yesterday when I was talking to this woman and was trying to help her understand how her daughter's fears were what was actually allowing these horrible things to happen. Well, not horrible, but I mean scary, you know. When the spirit of a, you know, someone who died in a horrible accident shows up and they kind of, you know, still are carrying the imprint of how they died, that looks really fucking scary. I don't want to see that. So as I was, you know, explaining to this woman, and this is the metaphor that came out, was that, you know, fear is like the vampire movie. Fear is a permission slip. Fear is an invitation. And it is not, and I never want to imply that it's about pointing the finger or giving blame or assigning blame or, you know, saying, see, it's your fault. It's not about that. It's that when you know better, you do better. And so unconsciously we carry around these fears, and unconsciously we aren't addressing these fears because, and this is like the whole thing, it's like this catch-22 and the snake eating its tail. Fears are scary, and so we don't want to deal with them. We're afraid of them. It's so, you know, fears make us afraid, duh. And so when we are afraid, many of us, I would say all of us at some point, do everything we can within our power to ignore, avoid, push away, keep the fears at bay. But in our unwillingness to deal with the fear and to face it, we make it bigger. And we also keep inviting it into us, because ignoring a fear is not dealing with it. Avoiding a fear is not dissolving it. Letting a fear hold power over you keeps it around. Power can never, we are all powerful, right? We are all powerful beings with the divine spark, with the light of the universe, creator, God, source, whatever you want to call it, inherent in who we are. And we all come into this world pretty fully formed. All of our power is intact. All of our light, so to speak, is in place. Which is ironic, because physically we are not fully formed. Physically, obviously, we're a teeny tiny version of ourselves. But energetically and on a soul perspective and in terms of our power, we have it all when we are born. We come with a full basket of it. And as we live our lives and as we go through our journey on this planet, we inevitably encounter things that we don't want to deal with because we don't know how, we don't want to, it feels scary, it feels overwhelming, it's painful, and so we don't want to deal with it. And so when we perceive that I can't deal with something, or I don't want to deal with something, or something is too scary for me to deal with, we are in essence saying, I can't deal with you, I'm powerless to deal with you, whatever you is, an event, a person, a ghost, a spirit, whatever. But our unwillingness to deal with it and to face it head on gives our power to it. We literally, if you've imagined that we've got, a bucket full of power when we come into this life, and we go through our lives and experience things, and anything that we don't want to deal with because we're afraid of it, we are in essence giving it some of our power. We're saying, I can't deal with you. I can't, you're too big and scary and powerful and too intimidating or whatever. So here's some of my power. Go away because I can't deal with you. But it doesn't work that way. It actually sort of binds our fear to us because it is holding something that is ours. And so it's kind of, in a strange way, fear is only showing up for us to acknowledge it and to face it so that it can go on. The fears don't want to be there any more than we want them there. That's the irony of fear, is that the energetic impulse of fear is one that is created so that we can face it and dissolve it, and in essence remember the truth of who we are, which is powerful, infinite, incredible beings of light and of love. And that fear really has no fucking chance when it comes to facing, when you are in the power of who you are and you are aligned with your truth and you are standing in the light of who you really are and you are completely embodying everything that is yours and that you are, which is eternal, infinite. I mean, you're God. We all are. Newsflash, I've said this before, but there is no difference and no separation. We all come from source. Everything comes from one pool of source energy. And we are just an individuated aspect of that source energy in a human form. So we are that which we seek. So when we are standing in the truth of that, fear doesn't stand a fucking chance. It's just that sometimes we need the presence of something scary and fearful to kind of wake us up and remind us of like, oh, no, wait, I can handle this. I can deal with this. And fear is going to show up in whatever way is most powerful for us so that we can remember that. So when we give our fear away over a period of time in our lives, it ends up depleting us. It ends up exhausting us. It ends up wiping us out. And we are literally a fraction of the person that we used to be, or a very small, sort of depleted version. We go from HD, beautiful cinematic, 3D, high definition, what's those big giant theaters, what is that called? Those huge theaters that you go and see in the movie. I can't think of them right now. But IMAX, thank you. We come into this version as like the cinematic 3D, HD, IMAX, huge, amazing, powerful version of ourselves. And as we give our power away, we end up turning into this old black and white TV from 1972 with one tired old crackly speaker. And that's the version of our lives that we're living because we have given our power away through not wanting to deal with our fears. And the fucking kicker, the irony of it all, is that the fears that we are avoiding are attached to us because they have our power. And they're literally just kind of following us around going, hey, would you just fucking turn around and face me so I can give you your damn power back? Because I want to go back to the energetic soup of source, because everything is energy, right? So we manifest and we create these fears, and the longer they become like dust bunnies, and the longer that we avoid them and the more, that we try to resist them, the more energy we give them and the bigger they become. But they're really just a dust bunny. And all we have to do is turn and face it and take our little psychic energetic vacuum, suck it up and say, no, this is mine. This is my space. Be gone. You have no power here. Give me my fucking power back, bitch. Peace out. Deuces, hit the road. So our fear is what keeps us attached to it. And when we don't want to deal with something because we're afraid, and I get it. Look, we live in a society that has learned this. And there are billion-dollar industries built upon keeping us afraid. buy this drug or you're going to die. Buy this security system or you're going to get home invaded. Buy these clothes or this makeup or this, this product, this thing, or you're going to be laughed at, ridiculed, hated, excluded, chastised, shunned. Watch this TV show or this movie, or you're not going to know what anyone's talking about and everyone's going to laugh at you. So there are billion-dollar industries solely based upon making us afraid so we'll buy their shit. So I get it, fear is pervasive, but bitch, that's no excuse. That's no fucking excuse, because at some point you gotta just say, you know what? I'm tired of running. I'm tired of these fears following me around. And the minute that we stop, turn, and face our fears on our internal landscape, this is the trick, is when we are trying to construct walls around ourselves, you imagine yourself as like this, we have this 360 degree, fully dimensional energy around us. And it's like, fear's coming at us from the back. So we turn and we try to, block it out by building something out, building a wall around ourselves in the back. And while we're focusing on the back, something is coming from the front or above or below or the left or the right. And so we're always trying to construct walls and barriers to our fears, which just magnetizes them to us more strongly. And then we're fucking exhausted because we spend our whole life trying to build all these walls around stuff that we don't want to deal with. This is the key. This is the trick. You go inside. You stop worrying about trying to construct something from the exterior, because nothing that is ever outside of us is really real. It's all the illusion. The only thing that's real in the end is what we carry inside of us. Our light, our love, our truth, our power is all internal. And we are born with it fully intact because it is ours by divine birthright. We are God, so why would God ever disempower itself? The only reason God would ever willingly disempower itself is so that it could have the experience of illusion and challenges and separation, so that it's like an obstacle course. We come from source as source on a journey to source, so that we can have this experience of forgetting who we are, and then going through all of these trials and tribulations and issues in our lives to get back to remembering, oh, duh, I was powerful the whole time. I just kind of forgot it. I didn't believe it. And so my movie that I am experiencing through the projection of source energy through my film strip is that I'm powerless. So that's what I'm experiencing, being powerless, because it's unconditional. So when we spend all this time and energy and effort trying to construct shit around us to keep shit out, it is 365, 24/7, from until the day you die, you will be building these walls and trying to construct stuff to keep fear at bay. So what you do is you go internal and you access the power of who you are, which we all have. And if you tell me that you don't, bullshit, and book a session with me and I will show you, I will prove to you unequivocally that you are powerful. And that life is not happening to you. You're not a victim. Life is responding to you and unconditionally and lovingly reflecting your beliefs and expectations, because that's the deal. Hate to break it to you, bitch, but you're the one responsible. So go inside. Access that power that lives within you and begin, imagine that you have a dial. Your pranic tube, Pranic. It's a tube of energy. It runs through the chakra system. And you don't even have to know about pranic energy and the pranic tube and all that. All you need to know is imagine that your spine is like a fluorescent light bulb. And you have a dial. Say it goes from 0 to 100. And if you're really afraid and you're really trapped in fear and disempowerment and giving your power away, because power can never be taken, it can only be surrendered, and we choose to surrender it by not wanting to face our fears. And look, I am the last person to judge anyone for being afraid. I grew up in a really small town in Wyoming as a flamboyant, artistic, creative gay kid who also had the abilities to sort of sense things that not everyone could. And I lived a lot, I was bullied and teased and, my whole life basically, from 5 to 18. And so I grew up in a lot of fear and terror. I understand the power of fear, the illusion of the power of fear. But at some point you gotta finally say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm the one responsible for my life, and no one's gonna save it, save me from it. No one's gonna do it for me. So I gotta be the one to empower myself and take it back. And so you go inside, you imagine that pranic tube of light, that, that fluorescent tube that runs up and down your spine, and you say, I'm just going to turn up my light and I'm going to burn this shit down. I'm going to face these fears and I'm going to do it with my light on blast. So you imagine you have a dial, and most of us, especially when we're afraid, if the dial goes from 0 to 100, we're walking around with our light between like 0 and 10. And so you just imagine that you are turning up the dial from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50. And as you turn up that dial and as you center in your truth and in your power and in your light, that tube of light begins to glow, and it gets brighter and brighter and bigger, and it's, around 40 or 50 on that dial, light is literally filling up your entire body. And as you go to 55, 60, 65, 70, the light begins to expand outside of the physical form. And by the time you get to 100, you've got a bubble of light around you about 3 feet in every direction, top, bottom, left, right, front to back. And you are literally sitting in the sovereign, divine, blessed energy that is who you really are. The power of the soul, the power of the spirit, the power of light that nothing can get through. That shit's like a bug zapper. And you just say, all right, now I've got this light and I'm going to meet my fears on my internal landscape, because that's my playing field. I'm the one that calls the shots. This is a home game, bitch. And if you're coming to me with your fears, and if you're stepping to me with all of your illusions that you're bigger and you're powerful and you're badder than I am, you better know that you're on my turf. This is my field, my rules. And that's another thing. If something is coming to us, they are stepping into our field of reality. They cannot enter without our permission, which is the vampire thing, right? They can't enter without our permission, and our fear of it and our belief that we are powerless against it is the permission slip that it requires. And once it's in, it's taken up space in our energy field, it's holding onto some of our power, and it cannot leave until we face it and say, who the hell let you in? What the hell are you still doing here? What's your problem? What do you want me to know? What's the message you have for me, fear? What are you here to teach me? Because I'm telling you right now, you're on notice, and I'm sick and tired of you holding space in my field. Yes, I acknowledge that at some point I invited you in, consciously or unconsciously, because for whatever reason I didn't want to deal with you, or I didn't think I could. But I'm here to tell you, game over. Pack your bags and get the hell out. What do you want me to know? Give me your message. Teach me what you're here to teach me, because it's only here to teach me a lesson. That's the only reason fear shows up. And P.S., everything comes from source. Even the stuff that we think is evil or dark or scary, it all comes from source. That's why it's called source. It is the source of everything. And something needs to play the role of the bad guy to remind us of how powerful we are. Without a villain in the story of our movie that we're projecting, who would play the bad guy? So someone has to be the bad guy so that we can be the hero. But unless you're willing to be a victim, nothing can be the perpetrator. So you go internal and you say, I'm going to face my fears. And I'm going to do it internally. It's not an external thing. Trying to build walls against it is a never-ending job. And you will spend the rest of your life and spend the rest of your power in this life trying to keep that shit at bay. And you will be exhausted, and you will be depleted, and you will feel overwhelmed, and you will feel angry and sick and upset and mad and all of those negative emotions. But the minute that you go inside and say, all right, game over. It's time to sit down. We're having a board meeting, okay? I'm sitting down at the head of this table because I am the CEO. I'm the one driving the bus. And all y'all knuckleheads in the back have been getting a free ride on my damn bus. And it's time. I'm going to pull this bus over to the side of the road, and we're going to sit and we're going to have a conversation. At some point, I let you into my reality, and I take responsibility for that. But what I want you to know, take a number one at a time, one fear at a time. What do you want me to know? What is the lesson that you have for me? What is it that I was unwilling to see until this point? And I am on my internal playing field. So you have to play by my rules. And I'm the one calling the shots. I'm the judge, jury, and executioner. I'm all of those things because this is my house. So ask your fear what it wants you to know. Ask it what it has, what message it has for you. There is a lesson there. There is power there because it is literally holding on to part of your light, and you cannot be fully integrated in your power and your truth until you face it. So you face them one at a time, you take your power back, you bid the fear farewell, pat it on the head, give it a little spank on the butt and tell it to go on its merry way, and it will. Click, dial tone, goodbye. That's a RuPaul song. Credit to you, RuPaul. So that's it. And fear is going to do everything that it can to get your attention until you finally pay attention to it. Until you finally turn it and say, okay, what the hell do you want me to know? And that's what we got to do. So this woman yesterday, that's what I was telling her, like these fears, these spirits, these entities, these attachments that feel so scary and appear as very scary things, they're just showing up because they have something for you. There's some, and all you have to do is begin to take your power back, turn up the volume on that light, create that bubble of light around you, and at some point it becomes like a bug zapper, and nothing that is of a lower vibrational frequency can get through, because it has to have your permission to hang out in your space. And by not dealing with it, by not turning and facing it head on and going, no, sorry, not interested, then it has to go away. And unless we say, nope, sorry, not interested, this is my energetic boundary, this is my space, I'm a divine sovereign being, and you don't have my permission to hang out here, you are not a victim. Nothing is happening to you unless on some level you allow it. And the minute that you remember that, then the fears know they've been put on notice, and I trust me, they will line up because they don't want to be hanging out any more than you want them there. So I hope that this video made some sense. I know it was sort of rambling stream of consciousness, but I just wanted to begin to, empower you to take your power back from your fear and know that it is only an illusion presenting itself as the bad guy or as the villain to get your attention, to remind you that it's not more powerful than you are. Once you turn on the light, you realize that it's not really a scary boogeyman monster. It was just a pile of clothes on the chair that in the dark kind of looked like a scary boogeyman monster, but it's not. So that's it. Get over the fears. Put them on notice. I got your number, and you're not allowed. Be gone. You have no power here. Be gone before someone drops a house on you too. So that's it. Go to my website, check me out there, my Facebook page, my Instagram, all that stuff. You can actually find all those buttons on my website, thelightedones.com, to follow me there. And book a session with me because, I can help. And I know, trust me, as someone who has walked through his life being paralyzed by fear, they are going to continue to manipulate themselves into your experience, and what you fear will continue to show up in your reality, in your movie, as a validation of that experience, and it only continues to validate itself through your experience because you believe that it is real. So the minute that you say, no, I'm done, I'm tired of feeling this way, I'm tired of expecting that I'm always going to be, abandoned, fucked over, screwed over, powerless, a victim of my life, the minute that we just get sick and tired of it, that's when we immediately can turn and face it and say, okay, you know what? I'm ready for a new movie. I'm ready to tell a new story. And it all begins with me acknowledging that the experiences in my life that feel scary and disempowering are only showing up because on some level I believe them and I expect them. And so I'm going to continue to experience the validation of it because it is what is being projected through my film strip. So change the fucking movie. And I get it. It's a process. I speak in very metaphoric, sort of high level stuff. And I understand that your individual fears and individual experiences are very valid from your point of view. I'm not trying to deny your pain or your suffering or your fear. It's very real. However, it's only real as long as you believe that it is. That's the trick. So I can help you face those fears, and I can help you work through them, and I can help you eventually face them and dissolve them and take your power back, and then you can begin to live a life that is authentic and true and real. So go to my website, check me out, and let me know how I can help. As always, I thank you for watching. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.